Welcome to Global Connections on ThinkTech Hawaii. I'm your host, Jay Fidell. This episode is called Trump's Board of Peace. How does it reconcile with his Department of War? Our co-host for the show is Dr. Roopmati Khandekar. Welcome to the show, Roopmati.
Hello, Ajay. Thank you for having me on your show. Always a great pleasure here.
Well, Trump's Board of Peace sounds like another distraction, another attention-getting device, another ridiculous bid for the Nobel Peace Prize, and another way to raise money that will simply wind up in his pocket. The new gambit is unlikely to do anything constructive or meaningful, but much more likely to add to the global chaos and confusion he has already created. So, Roopmati, what is it? What is the Board of Peace anyway? Do we know?
Another disturbance in the international system that we can call it, Jay, because we were gearing up for the 56th World Economic Forum in Davos, and it was business as usual for all the leaders. And then suddenly you have Trump, who is greeted, he was greeted by no one. He walked in alone to Davos, and he has come up with announcing his Board of Peace, which is for the reconstruction of Gaza and to end his conflict, and phase 2 of his long-term plan in Gaza, Jay, after this October 2023 terrorist attack on Israel. We know it's a long-drawn battle between the negative forces of Hamas and their allies against Israel, and Trump has been presenting himself as the beacon of the entire action in the Gaza Strip. And we have already had a program how he wants to establish it as a Riviera. Before that, he has to establish it as an area of peace. And so we have this national, this is international organization that he terms it, and he gets it backed by the United Nations resolution 2803J. So what happened was that the former British Prime Minister Tony Blair had initially proposed this coming together of nations to place the Gaza Strip under international administration. And Trump, at the same time, presented a similar plan in September 2025 to establish a Board of Peace, he says. And Jay, this would enable them or authorize them to deploy an international stabilization force, something like the resolution that the UN passes. They don't have the powers to implement. Rather than they just have the forces for peacekeeping. Nothing of a force or an authority which would have the backing to have military action on the ground, Jay. So this is something away from the entire United Nations system that he has. And so Jay, Trump comes up with this plan, and he has he is the chairman. Any doubt about that? He's the chairman of the entire thing, and a founding executive board that he forms, which is leaders with experience across diplomacy, development, infrastructure, economic strategy. And the leaders that he appoints are Secretary Marco Rubio, Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner, Sir Tony Blair, Mark Rowan, Ajay Banga, and Robert Gabriel. So they will have portfolios allocated to them regarding Gaza's infrastructures. You see capacity building, regional institutions, reconstruction, investment, large-scale funding, and capital mobilization. So Jay, he has this kind of his team in this, and then now he wants to invite countries. So and out of the 60 odd countries, only 19 have accepted it. Europe has literally been in the shock spell. They don't want to they don't want to read out Trump's policies, and so now you have a kind of a kindergarten tussle between Donald Trump and Macron, where he says, why is he wearing those glasses? What happened? And he flashes out his private messages, or like he's angry with him. So, in international politics, where each step is taken after long-term considerations, or there is a trend that has to be followed, and then other countries, here the countries are getting shock and awe treatment, and every time they wake up, they are turning to Donald Trump, having another circus onto it, and you have him mocking Macron. And the punishment that he wants to give Macron is 200% on his wine and champagne and cheese. So Jay, he's brought it down to that. France politics down to wine and cheese, and so this, he says, the utopian umbrella that he puts over it is to establish peace, preserve, establish security, preserve peace, and a terror-free environment. And if you see, the majority of the signing countries are all terror machines, engines. Pakistan is on, Uzbekistan is on. Israel is having a hard time digesting. The epicenters of terrorism are going to come in and on the board of peace. So contrasts, hypocrisy, everything is understatement at this board of peace level, Jay.
Oh, you raised so many questions. We hadn't heard much about the quote board of peace until last week, when Trump was embarrassed by his failed speech to Davos. And all of a sudden, we hear about the Board of Peace. Could it be that he's using this as a distraction to his failure at Davos? Because, it didn't seem to be doing anything. He didn't make invitations. He didn't try to raise money. He didn't articulate exactly what he had in mind, or that he would be the president of it, or the chair of it. And so I wonder what your thoughts are about whether this was no more, no less than an attempt to pave over the awful speech he gave to Davos.
Yeah, Jay, because see, calling countries horrible and I don't like it, and it's nothing of a drafted speech. He says what he feels, and now all of us have to feel what he feels. So it's like that kind of an what is that, fervor that he brings to the speech. There is no set notion. There is no analyzing of the 25-year-old trend. There is no long-term strategy involved. There is nothing of considerations of a statesman in his endeavors right now. And for him, Jay, when he talks on the World Economic Forum, he should hear the other people, other leaders speak. They talk of investment. You change according to the topic of your visit or the agenda of the conventions that you're attending. Not something like I hate all and I know what to do and all that that he speaks is very, very basic and very heartfelt. You don't have to be heartfelt every time, what he brings to the table, Jay. And if he was just another country, it would have been no problem. But this is America that we are talking of, which leads the international system. America leads the liberal framework. Davos is one of the main zones of a liberal world order based on markets. And when you come in there and you say, I want 200% tariffs on this, and I will do this about tariffs, you are disturbing the rules-based market economy that the liberal world order follows. And it's established by the US. Now it's being disturbed by the US. So other countries are scampering. Nobody wants to come on a platform with him or joint statement with him because you know what will come. So you have just the loan getters like Pakistan, or they lap up his every word. They tend to his morale, building ego boosting tactics. These countries are the ones which will come to the forefront. But other countries who do not want to embarrass themselves. We had a the famous thrashing of Zelensky, the South African president. So you don't want to go on a platform with him to embarrass yourself. That is the main concern of the leaders, and we don't have those many bilaterals coming up with the US. He is single-handedly dictating terms to leaders, and if you fail to do that, the consequences are tariffs. So he's controlling it with money. It doesn't happen that way. It's a comprehensive control that the US has, which has established itself as the hegemon of the system. Today, it is just limited to tariff. I'll do this, I'll do that. Countries will bypass the tariffs and learn to live without the US. That is when the concern will become real and the whole world will function without the US domination. That is when he will have a problem, because you can't just go on printing notes without a real trade happening. And that would lead to inflation. There are lots of problems in economics which lead over that. And so this Board of Peace, though it promises to be a political thing, the the mm, the the incentive to join it is join it or I'll put tariffs on you. So around 60 plus members are invited. Only 19 have joined. And Jay, there's a draft charter that he signed. So it was designed to ensure enduring peace in all areas threatened by conflict. Does not mention Gaza, does not mention Israel. It frames the board as a standing global body operating across multiple conflict zones and coordinating peace and stabilization forces worldwide. So it's something like the Security Council with all veto powers in the hands of Donald Trump. So we have that any country who would want permanent status has to make a financial commitment of $1 billion. And without paying, you can have, you know, you cannot, if you don't want to pay the full amount, you will still hold long-term seats and influence, which Pakistan, I don't think, will be able to play. Uzbekistan wouldn't pay. So this Gaza-based focus, Jay, now is being described as an international peace body. And the mission is very broad. The framework that it has given itself is extremely broad. And how much they're going to want to, what do you say, think only about Israel is a different thing, because now it has become an international organization in the hands of Donald Trump.
I didn't know there was a charter. Have we seen the charter? Do you know what the charter says?
Yeah.
Do you know what the governing arrangement is, aside from he will decide and he will determine and he will invite or disinvite? He's disinvited Canada. I think he's disinvited some other countries too, maybe the UK. Does he know what peace is? Remember the Peace Institute in Washington that he destroyed? He's not using that. This is the Board of Peace, which is a very unusual nomenclature. And like George Orwell, I don't think that Trump knows what peace is. Let's just look back at the last few months. He's attacked Iran. He's attacked Venezuela. He's attacked Yemen. He's attacked his own people. At the same time, he claims he's entitled to the Nobel Peace Prize, but I don't think he knows what peace is. It's out of Orwell, because in Orwell, it's always 180. Peace means war. Truth means lies. It's always 180 out. So if he's determining all this and he's setting this up, what do we really have here?
Hey, it is very difficult to read his mind, and what the words that he puts in his charter are very open-ended. So it gives him a large playing ground for his tantrums in international politics. It is now going to be not only limited to tariffs, but an international peace stabilization force which will enter your area, because every country has a conflict. Every country has a problem. And if the Board of Peace uses its discretion to say that they would come in and solve your problem, that gives them authority to enter your country, because it is going for this concept that the responsibility to protect had taken in the United Nations and used only twice. So this community of nations backing that he is using, that countries together are coming together for establishing a force which would look after the problems and the conflict of the world, not limited to Gaza, gives him this overwhelming power, Jay. And that is what is most dangerous, because, like you said, the countries which are backing out are not they're the main players in the international system, the main veto holders in the UN. They are not part of the Board of Peace. Putin announced that he would pay, even if he had to pay from his personal amount, he would put. So you have this understanding that Putin displays with Donald Trump, that whatever Donald Trump says, he's on it. He's letting him make a fool of himself on the international stage. That is what is happening. Jay, nothing else. $1 billion will be nothing for Putin. But that gives Donald Trump the encouragement that he's got Putin's backing on this.
It's extraordinary that Putin would be invited and actually join a board of peace when he is notably making war against his neighbor in invasive aggression. Just extraordinary. And Trump is having him in there. So I'm just all very confused about this because it's not a part of the U.S. government. It's not a part of the United Nations. He doesn't have any approval or authority from Congress. He just thought it up one day and decided he would have a board of peace. It's ironic in the sense that he changed the name of the Department of Defense in the United States to the Department of War. So you got war on the one side, and you got, quote, peace on the other side. And when you think of his the fact that he's expanding the military here and using the military and asking for still more money, he wants another $500 billion for the budget for the Department of War, as well as spending all that money for those guys in uniform in Minneapolis, all those guys who are killing people in Minneapolis. You really wonder where that comes together, because if you say peace, and if you say, as you said, there are hotspots all around the world, I can see him in the name of the Board of, quote, peace, end quote, taking our huge military, taking Homeland Security or other U.S. government organizations, and invading in the name of peace. And it isn't peace at all. I suggest to you this is a way of achieving world dominance. It's a way of invading people with our military and using the money that these guys said they will provide. It's just the beginning of some really awful scenario. What are your feelings about that?
Jay, it is very difficult to say this, but because this Board of Peace is a very selfish entity that he's formed. He said, it might replace the UN because UN did not help me. So, like we said, the charter of the Board of Peace, it outlines a multi-level structure for the organization, Jay. Main Board of Peace is the leaders of the countries, about 60. Executive Board is focusing on diplomacy and investment. 7 members are appointed in this one, the names that we took. And the Gaza Executive Board to direct the National Committee for the Administration of Gaza, the NCAG, and the head is Nikolay Mladenov, who has been appointed to the board alongside 10 others, titled the High Representative Gaza. But the main point is the number one point. Trump is designated as chairman for life. So you're not going to get rid of Trump on the international stage ever till the Board of Peace exists, Jay. So he wants to make it, he's chairman of this Board of Peace forever, for life. And that is what he brings in. That is why he has such a personal investment in this Board of Peace, Jay. You remember when Zelensky had come in and he had said that he asked him a question, Trump asked him a question, when are your elections? Why don't you have elections? And Zelensky said, we can't have elections because we are at war. And Trump's eyes lit up. That is one of the excuses that he may use when his time comes to go for election, that he is at war and he cannot hold elections then. So he had a smirk on his face, a glint in his eyes, that he would not want to get elections there.
Well, that sounds like a threat to the midterms and, for that matter, to the 28 elections.
Yes.
But, he controls the money to the extent that these guys actually give him any money. I don't think he's gotten any money yet. He's just gotten sort of commitments, I suppose, loose commitments from the people who said they would join, the people who accepted his invitation, which is a little spotty. But he has a complete control of that money. He can do whatever he wants with that money. He can build another army if he wants. He can go into Gaza and build the Riviera. It's all about what he wants to do on a given Tuesday morning, which is very troubling. And I think it undermines the UN, the EU, NATO, and for that matter, the whole Davos group. He's gonna, with that kind of money, he's gonna take all kinds of steps that will undermine all international organizations and, for that matter, the world order. Do you think it'll work? Do you think that ultimately this will succeed, or is this just another flash in the pan? Because Roopmati, since he made this big splash and took a photograph of all the people on the stage who were going to join him, we haven't heard much about it, have we?
It's just silent, but maybe it's the silence before the storm, because he is thinking on it, because it's a lot of personal at stake, Jay, because this chairmanship of his board of peace is independent of his US presidency. He is going to remain chairman for life, and he is not going to let it fail because he never accepts defeat. That is one of his founding tenets for his life, that he never accepts defeat. He will always say that you lost. He will never say that he has lost, or he'll never say he made a blunder. It's going to be like, I never said that, I never did that, and what I did was right. So it's a self-belief that fuels him, and he as an exclusive authority to create, modify, dissolve, make appointments, break appointments. He gives himself overwhelming powers to be a dictator of the world. And by getting these countries on board, he is 60 odd countries out of 200. Nobody from sub-Saharan Africa invited, by the way. So he doesn't want Africa at all. He doesn't think of it. So we have a leader who is creating his own throne. And what you describe every time, Jay, is so right, that he uses as distraction politics. Every time he wants to get away from something, he uses a sensational point, conflict, to distract people from news. Now, everywhere we have this board of peace flashing till we get some other news. So this theory of yours is extremely point on, Jay.
I keep thinking of the Constitution. I keep thinking that he is the president. And, this is not consistent with the duties of the president. I keep thinking that this is a violation of the Emoluments Clause. He's got foreign countries giving him, by definition, billions of dollars to do what he wants for his own benefit, easily wind up in his pocket. And who's to say where the headquarters will be, what banks he will use, what names he will use to deposit those funds? It could be the Gulf states. It could be Moscow. It could be anywhere, because he will decide. And it will not be the United States government. And the Emoluments Clause is being left behind. Congress is being left behind. The United States is being left behind. Nobody gave him authority. Nobody organized this. Nobody has given it imprimatur. So, it's, as you said, it's kind of independent of all those things. And you really wonder what he is going to do vis-a-vis his role as president of the United States. So my first question to you on that score is this legal? Can the president do this? Is this consistent with his duties as president under the Constitution?
Jay, we can use this line for every executive order that has been signed from the first hour in office. These are the questions which we are asking every time. Is this okay? Is this right? Because there's no limit to what is happening, Jay. There is really no authority over him to tell him that you can't do this. And like we said, Putin is giving a backup yes to him and validating his actions, and he feels he's right. So while he's making a mockery of himself on the international stage, Putin is sitting back and laughing his head off, because it's exactly what you want. You want blunder after blunder after blunder. Today, when nobody is at Davos to sit with him, to sit on the stage with him, to share a stage with the United States, it becomes a telling down or a what do you say, bringing down of America on the international stage. It's not about Trump, it's about the country first. He came in on the premise that it would be country first, and now it is only Trump. That is the problem, Jay. That is the main problem. America is being sidelined. The MAGA is absolutely acceptable if it's about America being great again. But it's not, it's TAGA. It's Trump great again. So we don't know what to do about this. And see the logo, Jay, it's a globe centered on the United States and the Western Hemisphere only, not the Southern Hemisphere. And it is olive branches in gold, which he likes. So, and Jay, nobody to pinpoint what you're doing is wrong is a very big, uh, uh, what do you say, characteristic of this presidency of Trump, because you see, for example, for instance, when he's put up the portraits of the presidents in the hall in the pathway in the White House, he's put Biden as a pen. So somebody should tell him you cannot do that. You cannot. It's not a you cannot. It's not a stage with your personal house or something like that. It's a representation of who has served the United States as president. So these things, his advisors are the ones who are yes men, and yes men for kings is always a top blunder, because advisors are supposed to give you a black and white picture of what is wrong, what is right. If they're yes men, this is what we have. Nobody's telling him this is wrong, this is not right, this is wrong. And Jay, tariffs, which he claims is giving in money, cutting the deficit in almost half, it's a temporary phase because you're earning higher amounts. That is up to the point of the goods that are already ordered, the transactions which are already in under process, but the new orders are not going to be coming. You know how many free trade agreements have been signed without the USJ? It is mind blowing in this, because you see the free trade agreements now. Just recently, a couple of days back, India and European Union have signed the mother of all deals. This is a mock. This is a dig at Donald Trump, because he calls it deal, 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 make the deal or break the deal. They called it the mother of all deals. 2 billion market they have created, slashed down import duties, export duties, made trade more easy, feasible, and lucrative for both the sides. This is how you function in a free trade zone. India, Europe, the Europe amongst itself, the other countries. This is all without the US. So ultimately, Jay, eventually, people are trying to bypass the US in all trade transactions. It's not going to be the imposition of tariffs to create. And now the Board of Peace. What is your backing? Your backing is not going to be these 19 countries who have signed, 20 countries who have signed, who are perpetuators of terrorism themselves. They don't have enough money to pay the permanent seats for the Board of Peace. You want to replace the UN, which has a standing infrastructure, and this kind of the Board of Peace threatens to be an international body, which would bypass, say, all these international bodies, because he wants to show that he can do things. And maybe in his attempt to show the effectiveness of this Board of Peace, he is going to do something more drastic, because he doesn't want to limit himself to Gaza and Israel. His work there is almost done. It's the Riviera that is his ultimate goal. But what he wants to do is now look at other conflicts where he can go in otherwise. And the 19 countries who have signed in, he's going to be partial to them in all their conflicts. So he's just creating a troop.
This is not America first, is it?
Not
in fact, if I were somebody who voted for him because he was touting America first, I would say, what happened here? This is not America first at all. This is completely overseas, and it's establishing a new world order, if you will, around him. Which is actually very threatening to the United States. But what about some of these countries? Actually, you say signing. I'm not sure anybody's actually signed the thing. But what about India? India was one of the people invited, and India agreed to join. Modi agreed to join. And that means Modi agreed to give $1 billion, which he could afford to give. Why? Just look at it through India and Modi's eyes for a moment and tell me why in the world would he do that?
Modi is flabbergasted by Trump's action because Trump has taken Pakistan into its uh, fold, near fold, because we don't have a cryptocurrency market in India, and Trump is very pro cryptocurrency, and Pakistan allowed him everything that he wanted for his son to come and establish a huge crypto firm in Pakistan. So that is the reason why he favors Pakistan over India. And Modi doesn't want to come into this mess because it would undermine his position as a sensible leader. Because if you go to see the countries that have signed the charter are Argentina, Armenia, Azerbaijan, Bahrain, Bulgaria, Hungary, Indonesia, Jordan, Kazakhstan, Kosovo, Mongolia, Morocco, Pakistan, Paraguay. These are the second tier countries who have joined with Trump. Now tell me, how do you where is France, Germany, UK, India, China, Russia in all the signing places, Japan, New Zealand? These are countries, Finland, Greece, these are countries which are players in the international market. So you the invitation withdrawn from Canada. So what do you say? Canada is huge, not a state of the U.S., but it is being treated as a state of the U.S. and declined. Jay, the people who have declined it outright is France, Germany, Ireland, Italy, Norway, and Slovenia. So you have Spain, Sweden, and United Kingdom. So entire Europe has just shunned off this uh, proposal to establish the Gaza, the board of peace, not the Gaza reconstruction, but the board of peace. So you have huge countries who refuse to be part of this circus, and that doesn't give any validation to this board of peace. And Modi doesn't want to be seen as one who would side Trump in this hullabaloo.
A couple of thoughts. One is that this is like a protection racket. And you take countries that are unable to defend themselves, that are in some way vulnerable, and you say, give me $1 billion, come under my wing, and I will protect you. And it's all about Trump protecting them. And that's like a mob protection racket, is what it's like. Whether he will ever come through on that is doubtful. But what it does is it undermines NATO. It's kind of a junior NATO. It's a NATO funded in large part, in fact, in total part. You didn't hear the United States saying it was going to give any money to this. It's only these secondary countries that are going to give money to this. And then he keeps it in violation, in my opinion, of the emoluments clause. So that's one thing. The other thing is him for life, really? With this charter thing, what is it? It's just like that airplane from Qatar, was it? For $400 million, which is probably an understated value because Trump knows how to overstate and understate values. And then there was this notion it had to be cleaned up, and that was going to be on government, on the United States. And now we find that 2 or 3 months later, presto, the plane is ready to fly. And he's using it, or will soon use it. And that was estimated at another 400 million from the United States. There's so much opacity here. You don't know what he's doing with our money, but you can't find anything that is of value or importance or relevance to the development, the protection, the preservation of the union or the people. So this is just another one of those things where he is sidetracking his presidential influence and authority to be a protection racket, and for him to hold and control that money for life, just like the plane. The plane is to his foundation, and that is equally for life. So he's really making money on this. This is really ultimately, in my view, going to wind up in his pocket. We're almost out of time, Roopmati, and I hate that we are, but I wanted to ask you if you could just leave a message. And the message is what should Congress do about this? What would you do if you were Congress? What would you do if you were a legitimate Secretary of State?
Jay, we are having such trouble at the Congress level too because there's nothing that needs the backing of the Congress right now, isn't it? It is just a one-man show, and there's no validation required. There is no need for a vote backup decision. There's no need to feel powerful if you have the Congress backing you. It is just that he has a single-minded decision-making body, and he doesn't want anybody to interfere in his implementations, and that is where Congress is having a problem. And this, as you know, Jay, the entire system, international system, it has never been so we would have used the term dynamic, but this has got a shock treatment at the international system. There is nothing that you know that would trend or would happen, and in an international system for nations, it's very important to predict the trends or to establish your bilateral, your multilateral ties. You need a trend that has to follow, a pattern that has to be there, a diplomatic, what do you say, inclination that has to happen. Here it is, if he wakes up one day, he loves Macron, second day he will mock Macron. So you don't have what will your staff do by going, what will your embassies do in France? They are going to have a problem in dealing diplomatically with this kind of, you have to defend the boss, and he is not doing things which can be defendable. And when you see the board of peace, Jay, this is just a mini reflection of what he thinks. He thinks he's chairman for life. He thinks his yes men have to be around him. That is his shield. No, that is just his validation. That is my validation. The countries which don't validate him, or the people who don't validate his decisions, are left out, ignored, or mocked at. So we have a system in which either you are with Trump or you're out of the system. Now, NATO is funded by the US. It's a protection umbrella, security umbrella for the EU. EU is not such a strong decision-making body, but even they are scampering to establish something other than the NATO, or they want to have a internal organization away from. They're trying to have these free trade agreements all over the world, looking towards even talking to Russia, having ties with China, opening up the Indian market. So they are looking towards the West. They don't want to East. They don't want to depend solely on America, because it is now becoming unstable, irrational, just because of one man's, what do you say, his just favoring himself, Jay. Nothing else, no country involved in this.
In the future, and maybe the future is really soon, is this going to work? Is this going to have any effect on bringing peace to the Ukraine invasion, Russia's invasion of Ukraine? Or is it just a bad definition of the word peace and will result in, how about nothing?
I think he's running after this Nobel Peace Prize. He got the certificate got from the laureate, and he feels that she's given it to me, so it's mine. So Jay, now this board of peace that he talks about, he is president for life. How will he command an army, or how will he command a military? It takes billions and billions and billions to run a military, leave alone a multi-country task force. After he leaves presidency, how is he going to fund this? The 19 billion or the 60 billion will be over in a blink of an eye in international politics. How does he plan to be king for life? That is because he never plans to leave the US presidency. This is going to continue, that is going to continue. And when he talks of taking the chairmanship, Jay, it is a very self-centered decision that he's taken. Very self-centered. There is no other thing other than what he says. The principles that you're basing the organization are not outlined. There is no respect for sovereignty of all nations like it is in the UN. Today, sovereignty, he wants to override that you can enter international boundaries and establish yourself. Now, when CJ, in his endeavor to acquire Greenland, he's given a free hand to Taiwan, to China to take over Taiwan, Russia to take over parts of Ukraine. If you're taking an entire country, an entire area from a small country, that is bullying, and that gives the free hand to other nations who are up to this point getting scared of a community of nations who respect sovereignty of borders. Now, with the establishment of Trump in the White House, there is an I will do what I want kind of attitude amongst everybody. And they are waiting till Trump makes all his follies, gives them enough basis for validating the actions. They are just going to say, he did it, so we did it. There's no basis to say you can't do this in international. You can't enter a country's national boundaries because he's done it. We are going to do it.
So the only certainty here is that he's undermining the world order, the liberal world order. He's undermining the rules that have existed since World War II. And in my view, this is no more, no less than a distraction to keep our minds off Epstein and other things like that that embarrass him. And it is what we used to call, when I was a kid, a nothing burger. It's a nothing burger, and you may never hear about it again. Let's hope that Congress is excited about this and takes an action against it under the Constitution and otherwise. Anyway, thanks to our co-host, Dr. Roopmati Khandekar. I'm Jay Fidell, host of Global Connections, in this episode, which we are calling Trump's Board of Peace. Some people spell that B-O-R-E-D. In any event, thanks to our viewers for watching. We'll see you again soon for the next one. Aloha.
Aloha, Jay. Thank you so much.